Chapter 43. Holiness. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 1 to 20. Ye are the children of the Lord your God. Ye shall not cut yourselves, nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a particular people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing. These are the beasts which ye shall eat: the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the hart, and the roebuck, and the fallow deer, and the wild goat, and the pygarg, and the wild ox, and the chamois. And every beast that parteth the hoof, and cleaveth the cleft into two claws, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that ye shall eat. Nevertheless, these ye shall not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel, and the hare, and the coney, for they chew the cud, but divide not the hoof. Therefore they are unclean unto you. And the swine, because it divideth the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud, it is unclean unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, nor touch their dead carcass. These ye shall eat of all that are in the waters. All that have fins and scales shall ye eat. And whatsoever hath not fins and scales ye may not eat. It is unclean unto you. Of all clean birds ye shall eat. But these are they of which ye shall not eat: the eagle, and the ossifrage, and the osprey, and the glede, and the kite, and the vulture after his kind, and every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the night hawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind, the little owl, and the great owl, and the swan, and the pelican, and the gier eagle, and the cormorant, and the stork, and the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. And every creeping thing that flieth is unclean unto you. They shall not be eaten. But of all clean fowls ye may eat. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 1 to 20. These are dietary laws, but they are also laws of holiness. The reason they are given is plainly stated. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar, or unique, people unto himself, above all the nations that are upon the earth. Verse 2. The emphasis is holiness. Scripture speaks again and again of the holiness of God. In the Song of Moses we read, Who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like thee, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? Exodus chapter 15, verse 11. Among other things, Scripture calls attention to the reality of God. He is the living God. As Psalm chapter 96, verses 4 and 5 declares, For the Lord is great, and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. The God of Scripture is the living God, whereas all false gods are fictions. They are, moreover, fictions which reflect the fallen nature of men. The best known examples of this are Greek and Roman gods, immoral and often contemptible. There were moral rules in paganism, but their essential source was the state. The gods of paganism were, on the whole, not moral beings. Their concern was power, not morality. To be a god was to be beyond morality. In this, they reflected fallen men, whose quest is for power, not morality. In this perspective, power is the great virtue, and morality is for subjects and slaves, not rulers. Even the Latin vir reflects this. Our Latin meaning is usually man, but vir also means soldier because it implies power. God as the Holy One is beyond all men's virtues. He is, in fact, the only source of morality and holiness. In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 25, we read, "To whom then will ye liken me? Or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One?" God declares, "Sanctify yourselves therefore, and be ye holy, for I am the Lord your God." Leviticus chapter 20, verse 7. Again, "Ye shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." Leviticus chapter 19, verse 2. God's holiness mandates man's holiness, for God created man in his image, which means, among other things, holiness. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 24. Man must therefore actively cultivate those things that lead to holiness. Dominion means holiness, righteousness or justice, and knowledge, moral attributes, whereas in paganism, an amoral dominion is commonly the goal. This is the premise of the laws given in this text. God's laws of holiness in these 20 verses all have to do with the body, especially eating. The body, like all things else, is God's creation, and the Bible is the great owner's manual for the proper care of his handiwork. Since we tell our children how to eat, why should God not instruct us? His first requirement in this text refers to tattoos, scarification for tribal or clan purposes, and ways of showing mourning by shaving off part of the eyebrows and like markings. In Amos chapter 8, verse 10, God threatens Israel with a baldness upon every head as part of his judgments. What they do in violation of his law, he will make a total judgment on all men and women. A like judgment is cited in Isaiah chapter 22, verse 12. In spite of God's law, Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 6 tells us that such mourning practices were common. Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 18 has a like reference. Wearing black for mourning is a Christian substitute for self-mutilation or markings. In verse 3, the general statement of dietary holiness is made. "Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing." In verses 4 to 6, the clean animals which can be eaten are cited. The pygarg is either the antelope or the bison. The chamois is here probably a mountain goat or mountain sheep. These are all herbivorous animals, not scavengers or meat eaters. In verses 7 to 8, the unclean animals are cited. Some of them, the camel, the hare, the rock badger, and the pig, are cited because of their superficial characteristics that seem to make them clean. Among the unclean animals, the most commonly used is the pig, and the evidence against it continues to increase. Professor and Dr. Hans-Heinrich Reckeweg, MD, has related pork to numerous diseases, notably cancer, and has seen it as destructive of the immune system. He cites it as a primary factor contributing to disease. Thus, failure to observe God's laws of holiness is destructive of the physical and spiritual being of man. God's laws have implications for all of life in every realm of our being. In verses 9 and 10, aquatic foods are discussed. The test here of clean food is fins and scales. This again excludes scavengers, bottom feeders, and the like. This rules out eels, lampreys, catfish, shellfish, and the like. Some commentators are so determined to see all excluded foods in terms of superstitious practices that the forbidden foods in their eyes must have been banned because they were supposedly sacred foods. This bypasses the blunt classification of them as abominable. In verses 11 to 20, the unclean birds are named, and in verse 19, flying insects are included briefly. Leviticus chapter 11, verses 21 and 22 accepts from this law the leaping as distinguished from the running locusts. Verse 20 refers to this exception. All these laws require a separation from paganism. Paganism sees death not only as a grief, but also as a loss. In some areas, as in New Guinea, a woman mourner especially cuts off a finger joint to show mourning. Death is a mutilation in pagan eyes, and so too is mourning. The forbidden foods, when eaten, are also a form of mutilation. In fact, every violation of God's law is a form of self-mutilation. J.A. Thompson wisely noted. Finally, it was not the observance of food laws that distinguished Israel as holy, but a total attitude of willing allegiance to Yahweh in love and obedience. Jesus enunciated the principle that it is not what goes into a man that defiles him, but what comes out of him. Mark chapter 7, verse 15. We can add that what comes out of the heart of a man is that which will determine what goes into him. In a very real sense, all of the laws of holiness are their own reward. They equip us for life, health, strength, and more. Scholars, Protestant and Roman Catholic, go far afield in trying to explain why these dietary laws came into being. They are unable to say that God gave them. One Roman Catholic scholar, who is dubious about the source of these laws, still could write. Gradually, these dietary laws, as they were developed and enlarged in early Judaism, became so ingrained in the Jewish religious identity that the first Christians had a difficult time conceiving of the possibility of genuine religion without them. Acts chapter 15, verse 29, Colossians chapter 2, verse 21. A curious fact is that evidence and research exists which confirms the validity of the dietary laws. P.C. Craigie did reports on the research of one man in these words. Thus, an American doctor conducted a series of experiments to determine the levels of toxicity in the meats of the animals, aquatic creatures, and birds mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 14. He discovered that the various types of prohibited meats contained a higher percentage of toxic substances than those which were permitted. But evidence for the validity of the dietary laws from a medical perspective is very old. Add to that the fact that it is God who first requires it, and an interesting truth emerges. Over the centuries, men have had the best of reasons for keeping the dietary laws, but they have chosen to set them aside. The Pharisees had their own ways of making the commandments of God of none effect. Matthew chapter 15, verse 6, Mark chapter 7, verse 13. And churchmen have theirs. As a result, among other things, the dietary laws have been set aside by the superior wisdom of churchmen who believe that they can correct God or bring him up to date. The grim reminder to all such men is that God himself calls these the laws of holiness. Thus, both holiness and life are associated with these dietary laws.